Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Hope you all are doing just fantastic. I'm still waking up this morning. I'm a little tired, but I hope you all are doing a little bit better than I am. Still a little sick. Oh, 1 second. Okay, I got a bunch of Pokemon cards. Oh, that's incredible. Hi. I'm still not feeling the best, but I'm feeling a little better. One day is only going to do so much. Good. Yeah, but I guess I'll still have to go to work today, you know? You can't just call out again, as much as I wish I could. So good morning, good morning, good morning. I usually do that on Mondays, when I do it. And I wasn't reading anything, I was retelling the story of me running my D&D game. Good morning, Akira. First off, Echo, thank you so much for getting second. And thank you, Goku's wifey, for getting first, except immediately getting stolen by Calypso and Keeper. Keeper, congratulations on actually being first. That's the wrong thing I clicked. 1 second while I get the right thing. There it is. Alright. Morning, Echo. And Ocean, thank you for the alert. Good morning, Vixaria. How are you doing this morning? Well, I have to go to work no matter what, so I know before if this is partially for me to stream, but also yes, I do need to go to work. Good morning, Dark Keeper, Pinky, and Tanya, and Keely, and Nap Time. I read your name as a Napalm sometimes, and Calypsy, and Defania's here, Vanya. Oh no, it's all green on my screen. I don't want to be green. I read the NP and my branch is like, yes. Okay, Napalm. But yes, we're gonna do some more gaming, some ASMR gaming, with a little yapping and vibing and hanging out. As for the month of October, which is coming up very soon, we're gonna do a lot of poetry reading, maybe some horror reading. So if that interests you, be ready. Well, very nice. Congratulations. What Pokemon cards you get? No, no. Not the Arf. Which technically, chat, it's misspelled, so it's Arvar. With all this time, I've been saying it wrong. Thanks to you reading. Yes. Okay, let me pull up. Oh, you didn't remember to do my shout out. How dare you? It's because you hate me. I get it. Chat, a reminder that Calypsy hates me. I am Calypsy's least favorite VTuber. Calypsy barely even willing to acknowledge my existence. You adore and cherish to hate me. It's true facts, true facts. I knew it. It's me in the opening scene. What do you mean it's you in the opening scene? Oh, hey, it's you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you? I like being bullied. Hey, don't bully me. Goofy. Okay, well, you know what we're doing this morning, as always. We're doing a little bit of the Minecraft. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Not everybody sleep. Anybody do? Bees, 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 bees. No promises. Remember, this is the last Minecraft world we're ever doing, so, I hope y'all slept good. If you didn't eat well, let me know. It's gonna be so funny. This is our last Minecraft world ever. Yeah. I have to tell stories, chat. You haven't eaten. Go to Eames. Kyoto, why are you tired? Why are you too scared to type anything? What's up? What do you need, Kyoto? Can I help you with something? Don't be scared. I'm not scary. I'm the least scary. Mm-hmm. It depends. Oh, you're fine. Why worry about being annoying? Mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That depends. Okay, on you. Are you satisfying your inner child at a point where you cannot afford to do so? Or are you spending more money than you currently have available? And is you spending this money causing you extreme risk to your financial well-being? Because if not, then yeah, there's some money things. Exactly. If you're saving to be financial, Hey, little, wicked. How you doing? Yeah, if you're saving money and preparing yourself to be financially responsible, then go for it. There ain't a single reason not to spend the money. Mm-hmm. It's not causing you harm. It's not causing anybody else harm. You're still in trip. Oh, what trip? Oh, I'm missing home base. I am. Right. Interesting. Enjoy your legs. Shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon. How is that not connecting to the base? It feels like it should connect. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. We should be here. Is it up or is it down? Oh. I guess I thought it was interesting. What are you apologizing for, Kamiya? What are you apologizing for? Ah. Right. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You goober. Absolute goober. That's what you are. I hope you know that. It's like absolute Batman, but goober style. Okay, one more down. Weird. Sorry, I heard just a weird noise right now. Couldn't really explain what it was. Mm. There's that good little bunny. Hi, Shay. How you doing? I'm doing fine. Also, other human curly straw. I'm such a good doggy. Such a good doggy. Morning, Casey. No, I'm not too sick to do that. Stinko. Rude. Let me drink some water first. I can't believe you called me Stinko. Well. I guess we're gonna be like this for a little while. I mean, morning. What lovely people you are today. Alright, I gotta see if I can hop my way down there. Actually, you know what I should be doing? First off, yeah, there it is. Straight on the morning. Thank you for the resub. Chat, have you heard about Twitch Prime? I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it, but Twitch Prime allows you to get a free sub to any streamer you want. And that streamer could be me. Or more importantly, me. So if you have Amazon Prime and you've always wanted to waste your sub on something important, wow. Connect your Amazon Prime account with your Twitch. And you too can be subbed to me. Get yourself some free emotes. And as well as the love and affection of a lovely little VTuber like myself. Thank you. How you doing this morning? Casey, at this point, I feel like I just need to, have you remind me to do your poem right after stream. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Alexa, set a reminder in 2 hours to record Casey's poem.
Okay, I'll remind you in 2 hours.
There we go. No, that's Alexa. They be different, but the same. Alexa. Why would Alexa be lucky? Alright, now we have bone meal. So, well, bam. Palia? What's Palia? What do you mean your day is only barely started? What's going on, Shay? What you got going on? Womp, womp, womp. Mm-hmm. Well, that was one of them, Paella. That's that Spanish rice dish, ain't it? What's that paella? Chad the cactus stole my bone meal. I ain't sure to do with that. How dare it? What are we doing? What do I need? Nothing. Alright, enjoy your heaps nap time. Nap time, do you prefer tired or nap time? You gotta have a preference. Which one's your favorite? What do you prefer more? What if I call you the Big Eat? No, I said you don't got a choice. I don't care if you don't care, I care. Alright. If you don't care, I'm just gonna call you anything. Your name is now. My brain is too tired to think of funny nicknames, chat. Just pretend I said something funny, alright? Thank you. Y'all just tell the jokes for me. I don't need no jokes right now. Thank you, Vonnie. Hi, Vaughn, yes. Who's that little cutie? What a cute little emo you got, Vaughn, yes. And it's coming to my attention, Jack. Oh, wow. Oh hell no. Oh no, chat, we did. We're dead. I don't know where they came from. I ain't know where they came from. Really can't do much about that. And there we go. This world is the fuck skeleton world. Yes, Sonia. I see you dropping cute emails, but you haven't said a word to me yet. Once now, we can change voices again. Here we are. Perhaps I should tell a story. Thank you, as I try to have it in just 1 second. If we have 5, so 4 or 5, that means it will be 4:20 when we are done. Ayo, lamau. Alright, chat. What kind of story would you like to hear tonight? So people at work. Okay. There are a lot of people at work. And they're all pretty nice and kind. We have some that specialize on getting hardware set up. Oh, wait, but I do have one. So, for those of you who don't know the term interim, an interim is a person who comes in and is there just for a certain amount of time. There's no way to spam hydrate. That was intentional to make it so nobody could spam hydrate. But so an interim is a person who comes in and is, there temporarily a lot of times. You'll have something like an interim CEO when a CEO leaves. Hi, Moonlight. I go by he's a. Chat, what pronouns do you use? And so, we had an interim CIO. And I have had very, very little experience with her. But apparently she's absolutely hated. Do I know why? Not at all. But she's hated so much that I was there, like, looking around, and we have a table where they put free things, right? Because they will have these meetings and things. And y'all, good choice. She's a very good visa, very good. She also good choices. And so, I went to this free tables the other day, and on there I see a little stress ball, right? Except the stress ball is in the shape of a heart. She, very good. He, also good. And this... Oh, I did. My pronouns are he's a, and then I ask everybody what their pronouns are, because I'm curious. And... wirklich. Ooh, thank you so much for the redeems. What is that? Why is that? What is that? What the hell is that? Why is it? Has it just not loaded yet? That would make sense. Okay, so it's the interim CEO, not CIO. So apparently she's hated because I was sitting there looking at the free things, and there was this little stress ball in the shape of a heart. And on the heart it said, to the interim CEO, because you don't seem to have one. signed, and then you can't read the signature. And it's like, that is such a weird thing to do, to be like, hey, let me put this in a public space to insult this person because they seem like they don't have heart. Also, who would do that? Who would come there and put that little thing there? What kind of issue does somebody have to put that there? There you go. You can have that one as well. Chat, I'm going to try something. Do not shoot me. Get touched. Damn it. Did you call Pinky Dad? Since when is Pinky Dad? Oh, there are too many of them. Oh, this one was awful. We're going to create a new verse. I didn't realize there's so many. Alright, we're going to call this one Pinky Dad. My dad keeps my dad keeps sending me videos of animations he sees at work. Oh, okay, I see now. Chad, we did not even make. Ah, this is perfect. We were meant to die. We are meant to die, Chad. We have found the perfect world to start. This could not be any better. Unless there is no bamboo, in which case this is not good at all. There is the voice. There it is. We have found bamboo. You may also stretch. Stretch? Oh, okay. There we go. Now, let me think of a story. A long time ago, there was a man who lived all alone, and whose name was a lone living man. Now, I should have you all just pick genres and I can write a story off of it. Spontaneously. I am looking forward to January, where every morning I'll be writing stories. You like telling your story before Halloween? What story? What story do you like telling? Keeper, you're fun. Good morning, Keeper, by the way. How have you been this morning? How's everything? How's life? Oh, Benny. Not good? Why? What's up? Something that you don't want to talk about in public space, or? We'll talk one-on-one sometime if you're interested. That's fair. Okay. Well, let me know. You witnessed hysteria. What do you mean hysteria? No, Anya, what is this? What have you clipped? Should I be worried? Is that a... That's something, chat. Oh. Oh, well. That sounds awful. I hope you're able to handle that with your YouTube. Why does your dad see animatronics? Pinky? No, I should ask you what your dad does. That's probably too doxing. I'm just kind of curious now, though. Is it a gun glib? Why do I not believe you? Why do I have a feeling that it's evil? Oh, kind of engineer. What's he do? I could have. There's the buildings. I knew they were there. I saw them. Good morning, Allie. How you doing today? He's an evil engineer. Womp, womp, womp. Evil. Do you know you say that? But why do I believe it's still evil? Congratulations, Allie. Sweetie. You get to be haunted by Vanya. Just make sure to keep them fed. It happens sometimes. You just get used to it. Vanya's haunting people. Wow, not Pinky coming out here with the dog. Thank you for the lurkies. Always appreciate it. Well. Enjoy getting ready for your day. I hope you enjoy. Getting ready for your day that I hope you enjoy. Getting ready for your day that I hope you enjoy. My brain is so absolutely fried right now. Please help somebody. Send help. I'm doing a little better versus today and yesterday, but I'm still definitely. Why do you worship a VTuber? What do you mean the other way around? They worship you? Oh, that's weird. Don't let them worship you. Oh, what are the fried brains? Beans. It's true. It's true. I am. Hello, Vofa. Vofa, somebody was looking for you yesterday. Get off my. Get off. Stop getting on my dirt. Yeah. Somebody came by, was like, oh, is Volfa here? I was like, no, Volfa's not here. And they're like, oh, I wanted to thank them for the sub. I'm like, oh yeah, that was done yesterday. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on getting more food. Don't overfeed your raccoon, though. The raccoon may eat everything and then will explode. And you don't want the 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 raccoon to explode, do you? Good morning, cat. If you feed the raccoon too much, they will explode. Raccoons have a habit of eating until the explosion. No, I'm trying to protect you. It's only protection. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you can't prove otherwise. You say that now, but wait till the raccoon explodes. You technically failed your math class, but you got. Hopefully, it's a curve. See, sorry. Vanya's going to eat the matcha. So, yeah, it's just better, you have to make sure to cage the raccoon, because if the raccoon's not in a cage, they might eat the matcha. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen before. I would never spread lies. Are you a wolf? I'm a human. Do you see my human ears? Very obviously a human. Can't believe that you'd think anything else. Why would you even think I'm anything else? Human. Just human. Mm. I'm such a good doggy. Mm. Mm. Yeah, Volfa. I wonder why I did that. Oh, I've stolen all the bed. No, I'm still not feeling the best. I'm feeling a little better, to be honest. TBH. But not the best. Thank you for the stretch. This is hey, ooh, shiny. In like what way? I'm a little sick. I don't know exactly what happened. But 'tis what it is. The orisms. Let's go. Ooh, shiny. Because apparently you'll get it for free. Shiny. Don't lick me. Do not lick. Do not lick. Illegal licks are occurring. The lick is a crime. Do not. Egg. Give egg. I need more egg. Where is egg? We have 2 minutes. I need more egg. Give egg. Give egg. Why will you ban? Who are you banning? Don't ban anybody. Why are you banning yourself? goofy. There we go. Alright, we have 4 eggs. It's 1 minute until we need to go down. Chickadees, give me more egg. I want 1 more egg. Give egg. Four is not enough to guarantee. It's time. Thank you for the hydrate. I'll drink water in just a second. Via entered the ground. Via in the ground now. Welcome to the underground. Welcome to the underground. Dun, 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 dun. Why'd you clip this time? Down, down, and down. I didn't say why, I said what. Curiosity. Do you have naturally curly hair? Do you have naturally straight hair? What kind of emote is that? You silly little goofy thing. No, chat, guess what? We have a mascot in the works. Oh, well, go curly. I prefer curly hair. Yeah. And the mascot has it represents chat. And it's a very simple design. Hello. Lost. So that you can, make your own sodas of it. He's very cute. He's a little jestery guy. You will want to eat this one. You will definitely want to eat him. He's definitely adorable. Do I have a fan name? I do not have a fan name yet. But the mascot is so cute. Why? Because of good art. He got big head. Like it is legitimately so cute. And like you can do like different animal variations of it. So that you can just, if you want to like make your own, you could just do like a little dog version or a little bunny version, and different versions are being drawn right now. As well as the new design is being worked on for when I get my new model. Yep, there will eventually be a new model. actually kind of work. About what? About the new model? I mean, we already talked about it quite extensively. The character is a villain whose power is based on luck. I have too much stuff. The new model will be fully 3D, so it'll be able to do a lot of things. If I can get finger tracking, I'll get finger tracking. Should be very, very, very interesting. Now, it's going to be far into the future that we actually get this model, so just a heads up. I just want to give you a little, like, little peeks behind the curtain. But he looks very, very cool. Because, I mean, it's going to be a whole investment to get everything done. From getting all the VR setup stuff that I want, so we can make our own little area. I already have an artist I'm going to try. I'm going to get an artist who I'm going to have, like, create the little hideout. So we'll have our own 3D virtual space to work in. And then I'll be writing lots of character lore. No. Eep's good. Maximum eeps. New background, new 3D model. There'll be new emotes. There'll be new overlays, new. It's gonna be a lot of new. And that'll also come with potential merch and stuff. Yeah. And probably like 1 or 2 new mods, but we won't be getting rid of the old mods. Oh yes, it will be an expensive project. Hence why I'll be doing a fundraiser before I really get into it. And I'll be saving a lot of money, and I might be taking on a second job. I actually have an interview Thursday for a weekend job. Why can't you get buy merch? I mean, unless you broke, which is totally understandable. But merch will be hosted out of, I'll have 2 locations for merch that I'll be hosted. One will be hosted in Europe. The other one will be hosted in the States. So that there should be no tariff issues. Oh, that's very fair. I may also do merch giveaways when we do a merch drop. And that way I'll just send out free merch to people. Vanya, it would be hosted out of the Europe, so you would be able to still be able to get it. I actually have somebody in Europe who I would go through to ship it. It'd be coming out of Germany. Hi, Shiny. Hi, Galibsy. And your weird tongue thing. Thank you for the follow. Okay, well, then I might need to find somebody in China to host it as well. Voni, maybe I'll have you host all my merch. Do you have enough space for like $100? How you doing? Thank you so much for the follow. Vanya, Uh, can you learn Mandarin and Cantonese in like 5 months? That way I can use you to go check out factories for me in China. Please. But he would be the best. Aussies? If I was coming out of it would probably come out of Asia if I could. I probably wouldn't be able to host anything out of Australia. But it would probably come out of China or EU. Tariffs out of the EU are just going to be a lot better than it would be from the States. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I've been in discussions with that. No, I'm broke. If I were water, where would I be? Hmm. In a bottle. Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Wayfair. Oh, I thought you were talking about. Never mind. Skinnier. Exactly. Now, of course, I mean, there has to be interest in merch. So, I'll probably need to go down harder. Because I feel like most of the stuff that I would do would need to be through like third parties right now before we have like big merch launches. Maybe like half a year out, maybe a year out. What was that? Hypothetically. I do not. I don't know a lot of things, Vanya. You have to remember, Vanya, I am dumb. I know only 3 things. I have 3 knowledge. Knowledge 1. And then I don't actually know that knowledge. I know 3 things, nothing actually. Mm. Good water. I've gone too deep. Alright, chat, pick a direction. Which direction are we going in? North, east, south, or west? Perfect, we're already going that way. South is always good? Okay, we're going south again. I think we've gone too deep. Not this way. Hey, look, iron. Yay, iron. This is honestly one of the most annoying things is just trying to find water. I should always get water before we come down. Oh, I apologize for the ad break for those of you who don't have the thingy. It's too bad when you don't have a thingy. Chat, maybe one day you two could have a thingy. Only if you want a thingy. You know, the thingy. You know what I'm talking about, a thingy. You don't know thingy? How do you not know thingy? It's okay, one day you'll know thingy. One day you'll know. Mm-hmm. Chad doesn't know thingy. Can't believe it. It's crazy. Crazy like a buck. Oh, sorry, if you don't know thingy, you just don't know thingy. Maybe another day you can know thingy. Did you just pull a gun on me? I can't believe you pulled a gun on me. That's whack. Put the gun away. Chat, guns are bad. Put them away. Y'all are not allowed to fight me this early in the morning. Maybe we'll read something while I wait. You ready, chat? I'm done with wanting less than I deserve. Why should I settle for a love that's good enough? When I can be patient and accepting, what I want is actually really all that stupid, corny stuff. I want someone to look at me like I'm their favorite character from a book, thanking God that I'm standing in front of them, painfully aware of just how long it took. Someone who doesn't take love for granted, who communicates openly and fair, who realizes immediately when I need him, and who makes sure to already be there. Mm-hmm. I like that one. Good poem, good poem. Finger snaps, chat, finger snaps. You don't relate? That's probably a good thing then. Valentine's Day is fast approaching, and cheesy as it sounds, my favorite day of the year. Not because the heart-shaped boxes of chocolate, but because it reminds me of love without fear. We used to give cards to each other in school, names scribbled in shades of pink and blue, and I wondered when God would tell me, here's the person that's meant for you. I used to think of my heart as a flower shop, where people would usually come and go, buying off the most beautiful arrangements, then not coming back when it started to snow. Eventually the shop went out of business. I started to let the flowers die, but the seeds lasted longer than the flowers, and they encouraged just one more try. The shop became a garden. Everything was plentiful and warm, and the sun told me someone was coming, somebody who would weather any storm. Oh, that's cute. I like that one actually. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why not? Why not be romantic? There's no harm in it. Mm. I love love. Love over. That's fine too. Hmm. I have to use all this jungle wood, but I suppose I have enough to make this work. I need this and this. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, well, I really appreciate that, Vanya. You did a great job. Vanya, the best music. Very fair, Volvo. I get you, I get you. Oh, Volvo, I hope you know I do appreciate you very much. I mean, romance can be found anywhere. Everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves to be loved no matter their occupation or otherwise. Even if it doesn't make sense. You are DJ Khalid now, congratulations. We the best music. Don't get swept away, okay? Do not, no, I said don't get swept away. Legally required, you don't get swept away. Life is complicated and money is important. And the world is hard enough to face on our own. Whether it's friends or lovers or companions, or hookups or anything else. It's good to not have to face the world alone. And that's what I wish for every one of you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They are. They are. They most definitely are. And why are there demons in my walls? Hi, Foodie. How you doing? Come on, baby girl. Mm-hmm. That better not be the surface. Oh, why haven't you been able to sleep? What's going on? What's going on, bub? Everything alright? Water, 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 water. What do you need? What do you need to sleep better? Go get some food. Enjoy your food. Eat well. Mm-hmm. Anyone? That's fair. You'd have less things to stress out about, I suppose. What is easier said than done? Good morning, Louie. How you doing? Good morning, good morning, good morning. New life. Sorry, I can't help you with that one. Ain't no isekaiing over here. Sorry, Chad, I can't isekai you to a new life. Of course. Sure, dwarf, come here. Focus. Click send. Clickety clickety. Good morning, good morning. You're welcome, you're welcome. Thank you for the stretch. What are you ughing about? Why are you ughing? Don't you ugh. Illegal crime, don't ugh. Committing crimes, ugh. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Committing ugh crimes. Whose emote is that? In vain. Oh, that's a little in vain. Ain't no way you already grew that fast. Enjoy your apes. Go sleeps. Sleeps is important. Sleeps is very important. My first ever video game. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was one of the Sonic games. Or a weird little sci-fi game my father used to have. Calypsy. When do you need to be up by? Oh no, have you gotten any sleep, sweetie? I'm physically and sleep. What? I don't understand what you're saying. My brain did not comprehend. Oh, anxiety. Antsy piety. Antsy piety. Me too, buddy. What is that? What do you mean? What do you mean breakfast or dinner guy? No, I want to eat my meals guy. I like meals. Food's good for you. There should be no or, there should be and. All food good. Your mac and cheese. Good morning, Lumi. How are you doing today? Oh, Lumi. Lumi. Must be gloomy. It's a rich man's world. You're welcome. No, Lumi. Breakfast first dinner. You know, I think I would be, Is that all it takes to make you all red? What if I go? Oh, you pretty little thing, you. Look at you. Doing just so very, very well. Oh, I'm proud of you. How's that? And see, I didn't even have to sexualize it. Immediately hydrate. Weaklings. You would not survive. I think I might make this into like step farming. Oh no, step farm. No, Calypsy, sweetie. You don't know how happy that makes me. But Lumi, you are genuinely doing great. I enjoy your streaming, even if we do stream at very different times. By the way, Jen, if you haven't had a chance to check out the lovely Lumi Skullgirl, please do so. So what is it about Ara Ara that people like? Mods are probably leaps, but I also didn't say shoutouts. But if you'd love to shout out the Lumi Skullgirl, I would be alright with the mods shouting out the Lumi Skullgirl. You don't get the Ara Ara? Me neither. I just think it's fun to do. Mm-hmm. And I like doing things people enjoy. Yeah, my. What do we have here? Oh no, my sugar cane. They took away my sugar cane. It was me, I was the one who took it. Ma, ma. I want to see if this is even going to work. What do you mean they'll let me speak? Redeem. What redeem are you talking about? Do you mean the can you say? Is can you say not there anymore? It may have gotten overused, actually. That might be why. Oh, I might bring can you say back. As long as people use it appropriately. Because there were a few times where people were just kind of going crazy with it. I mean, I've removed a lot of the ones due to the parasocial nature that I was creating. Not saying that everybody's parasocial, but some people most definitely abused it. It's also a thing of like, if somebody comes in here, even though it's an 18 plus space, but as a minor, I was discussing the can you say redeem, because I enjoyed doing it, but definitely got abused occasionally. Yeah. Thank you for the follow, Donnie. Danya Decay. How you doing? Welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here. Yeah. What are you nyahing for? Yeah. But that is why we are going to open a Patreon. Hopefully the Patreon can satisfy some of the requests. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to actually having that Patreon going. Probably be November though, because we need to have a lot of things done for that. I just think it would be really funny to release it in November. It'll be safe for work, so it'll technically be fine. It might be suggestive at best. Oh, Calypso, you forgot you already signed up for it. You're here. Remember, legal requirement. You say that like you have a choice. All viewers are immediately signed up. Take me to court. That's true. Even if you want to participate, you may not be able to. It's just what you always wanted, Vanya, right? Oh, it's too late, Calypso. It's happening. Vanya birthday, November. Get ready to go to court. I'm going to take you for all you're worth. Sick puppy, still sick, unfortunately. I don't know who the sick puppy is, but if there was a sick puppy here, it was me. Still sick. I can neither confirm nor deny. I can neither confirm nor deny my status on that, Vanya. You know this. I know. That's why I'm not saying anything. I know. Technically, I'm not breaking the rules. this works. We'll see. Does that work? Do you have some medicinal properties? I mean, not that I would want to consume you or anything, but, you know, hypothetically. Well, it looks like we're going to be stuck like this for a little while again. Oh no. No, raccoon is a different species than what I am, so technically not cannibalism. Thank you, Wicked. You all on your teams, on your deals. Moonshine is very, very tasty. Except not really. Good moonshine will make you go absolutely insane. There, she's there. That's kind of crazy. Using moonshine. I mean, I guess that can make sense. Yeah. You know, it's that alcohol to kill them internal wounds. Oh man, I am so out of it. I hope I feel better today. Chat, I need your energy. Send me your good vibes so I can get better. Just put up your hands like Goku. What have you? Alright, sorry, I forgot about it. I was in the voice and then I forgot the voice. Get back in the voice. There we go. I will send you my energy like a reverse energy vampire. Please do. I will take it all. Why would you need your own energy? Just give it to me. It's fine. I will take your energy. There we go. Much better. If I'm going to put this here, then we do this here. And then we do face. We'll do a little pumpkin here. There, this is perfect. Maybe I'll do some feet on this level. We'll do it here. I also do need to do some beetroot. Where did I lose my beetroot? Have I lost my beets? Or did I already farm them? Oh, okay, fine. We can wait for that time. Naruto Shippuden. I have not seen that, to be honest. The Naruto. Okay, we are going to see. Wish luck, wish luck. Let's see if we can have some good luck today. Alright, Chad, come here. I'm going to bite you, and that way I will have your energy. Come here. Just a little nipple, and everything will be okay. What is your new ritual? What have you done? I need to start some face care rituals again. Wish. What are you starting the day with now? Anything good? Anything worthwhile? Alright, chat, is this time you ready? 1, 2, 3. We have no chicken. We got no chicken. Why, hello, Elrica. How you doing there, sweetie? Oh, did you come here to give me attention? You can always give me more attention. More is always appreciated. Fish and chips. What are you talking about with fish and chips for? I do need attention, Chad. Give me all your attention. Don't you dare give it to anybody else. Still sick, unfortunately. So I'm legally demanding every bit of your attention. Dar, I need your attention. Come here. Give me more attention. Thank you, Allie. That's very cute. I appreciate that. Nurse me back to health. Meanwhile, Chad's poisoning me to keep me sick, so I have to stay home all the time and never go to work. No, I need more, Vanya. I'm sorry, but I need more. Literally, I don't want to hydrate. Well, I did get heat exhaustion, but now I have something. Yeah, I think I got a flu or something. Because I was, doing stuff around my apartment and I just started sweating really, really bad. It was not good. Good morning, Don, the anime fan. How you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here. Oh no, I better not have COVID. I better not have COVID. I don't even know how we handle that now. It used to be you just take a day off work. Oh, shoot. I don't want to be sick. Good morning, princess. I am ill. If it's COVID, I'm blaming you, chat. You all infected me. Thank you. I will. Chat was all like, you won't be funny if Gene got super sick. I've never had COVID before, no. How dare you? How dare you? I'm offended. Bye, Ellie. Have a good one. Have fun at work, okay? Oh, I hate the Big Mac. They're an awful burger. Wait, have you not heard about you haven't heard about it, Volva? Really? So, the Big Mac is an awful burger for many, many reasons. We're going to start with the composition of the Big Mac burger. 12 beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, except you might notice that it's actually wrong because the Big Mac has significantly more than that. It has an absurd amount of bread. An absurd amount of bread. Especially with the ratio of bread to meat, because they have these tiny little beef patties, but you have 3 slices of bread. And because there's 3 slices of bread, you're breaking the sandwich up into 3 pieces. So you have, your one section with meat, lettuce, sauce, pickles, all that stuff. And it is just such a bad combination because it's just too much of those ingredients. The sauce isn't even that nice. And for being the iconic burger of McDonald's, supposedly, like the thing that it's supposed to be known for, it is just subpar on the size of beef, overloaded with veggies and sauce, and just proportional. It's just, it's stupid. It's so bad. I hate it very, very much. You only order Big Macs? Well, you're wrong. Because literally any other burger on their menu is significantly better. You are very wrong, though, so, get used to being wrong. Wow. Good. You should need a Big Mac. Horrible, awful waste of space burgers. The sauce ain't even that good. It's just Thousand Island. I could make a better Big Mac. Just, do 2 beef patties and take out the bread in the middle. It'd be totally fine. They're awful. They taste bad. That's what they did to me. For being the iconic burger. That's what it is. That's just what bothers me the most, is that it's supposed to be what represents the best of that place, and it's not. Even the McDouble, which is just a cheap patty with... I don't know if Fofo was there for that. But I would take a McDouble any day over a Big Mac. There's a reason why on Twitter I'm the #1 Big Mac hater. Okay, also, You're not in the States. I've heard the Big Mac is slightly better in other countries. Because you call it a chicken burger. Whoppers are okay. I'm not a fan of grill marks. Because the grill marks use liquid smoke to increase the flavor. No, I have vulva. I'm proud of you, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you for admitting the truth that chicken burgers and chicken sandwiches are better. Oh, I appreciate you. You're supposed to murder me right now. Kill me in my sleep. 1, 2. Oh, why are you crying? Don't cry, Calypsy. No, I didn't say I don't like Whoppers. I didn't say I don't like them. I just said, I'm just not a big fan of the grill marks. I like the BK Stacker, okay? Or the Bacon King. It's a burger that I do enjoy from Burger King. No. Hey, yo. Are you trying to riz in my chat? Don't you know it's illegal? Down, princess. A&W is the best fast food burgers. A&W is the best fast food burgers, without a doubt. A&W has the best fast food burgers. There is no arguing that. And I know a lot of places in the States don't have AW. AW has the best fast food burgers. That's all it is. You have to admit it. That like it's just the proportioning of ingredients is fantastic. I like the style of lettuce that they do. I like the way they proportion everything on their burgers. It is just flawless. Go. They also have cheese curds. Thank you so much for the follow. AW is technically it's mostly Canadian now. A&W, we're going to tell you all the story about A&W. A&W is a burger place and root beer, cheese curds. They're very good fried cheese curds. So, back in the day, AW and McDonald's were competing, okay? And McDonald's had the Quarter Pounder burger, which was one of the big sellers. And so to compete with that, AW made the Third Pound burger. Unfortunately for AW, quite a few people didn't understand that a third pound is bigger than a quarter pound. And so all their advertisement kind of went out the window because the people that they were advertising to did not understand the difference and thought that 3 is smaller than 4. And thus, they lost a lot of the American market. So here's the thing, the Third Pound burger was also cheaper than the Quarter Pounder. And so people were rationalizing, if it's cheaper, then, it must be less food. There's people like, why would I want a third pound burger if I get a quarter pounder? Oh no, AW did not make it out of North America. Why do you want to hit me, princess? Why do you want to commit violence against me? What did I ever do to you? Hello, thank you for the follow. Dude's a gunslinger. BSAW is amazing. Now, I also like AW's cream soda though. And the root beer is not bad. Hello, Rekka. Creamy is good. As long as you get like good cream soda. Like in a bottle or from a place? Volfa, why do you have so many wrong opinions? Depending on the place, some place cream soda is a place that they've added cream, and other places it's places where they just like added a vanilla flavoring. What flavor of cran do I like? Purple seems like it'd be the best, to be honest. I'll fight you on this, Wolfa. I will happily fight you. To the death, even. Well. No. Sorry, Jen, I can only fight Wolfa right now. I need to save my energy. No. Paradont. I feel like orange would be weird. I like the creamy part of it. Wolfa. You know what? How about this? I'll take you out. I'll have you try all the best things, Wolfa. And if you still hate them after we're done, then you know what? Fine, fair. But you and I will go out and I'll make you try all the best things. How's that sound? That way I can see your reaction and we can have proof whether you think it's actually bad or if you're just lying. No, I would never. Of course not, sweetie. Why would I do that? I've also never heard of gaslighting. Is that something the other streamers taught you about? See, it's just not gonna happen though. Sorry. There's only Gene. You're right, there is only. Oh. You all can learn. Chat, I need new Oshi marks. Dwarf, that is like the most. That is that. I like that. I like that. That is so like dude bro coded. Mansplain, manipulate, and manifest. Oh, that is good. That is good. You did great on that. You really be cooking with this one. Please don't beat at us. And us, that would be terrible. No, I've not. Oh, fuck. Hmm. Hmm. Sorry, we're gonna take you. How did it happen? Oh, I have lava over there, and every once in a while, lava will like has a chance of like setting something on fire from a certain distance. And I think it just got within that distance. I don't know what got within that distance, but something definitely did. Oh, 100%. We're gonna make a. Yeah, I'll do that. I'm gonna make little cages. Mm-hmm. Chat, I have to go. I didn't realize what time it was. We're gonna raid out real quick. Y'all be good. Y'all be amazing. Let's see what I can raid into. Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, Calypsy. I can make you very uncomfortable. Oshi. I'm so sorry I have to raid. I'm sorry I have to do this so quickly. I did not realize that I'm 7 minutes late for work. I mean, Wolfa, you have paid a lot, so maybe I will. As long as you know, there's a reason. Alright, we're gonna do a little lucky raid. Tell them that I am sorry that I have to raid and run. You've all been amazing this morning as always, and I'll see you all later, okay? Mwah, mwah, mwah. Mwah.